Good morning, good morning, good morning. Let's try that again, ladies and gentlemen. I have no idea what happened. My name is Thomas Taylor III. I'm coming to you live from Atlanta, Georgia this morning. I just want to talk to you a little bit this morning about lineage. I kind of talked to you before about it. I want to go a little bit deeper if you allow me to, and I'm going to try to be brief. What I want to talk about is for those of us who saw the situation play out with Kirk Franklin lately in the news. So if you didn't, Kirk Franklin's son actually recorded him. They had a heated conversation, a heated exchange. Kirk Franklin said a couple of words that based upon his image, he shouldn't be saying. But hey, we all know, we all understand how that actually goes. But what I'm going to talk to you about is, and then he was actually on Tamron Hall's show yesterday. And when you listen to him talk, what that whole thing is, and actually it's been going on for over 25 plus years, it was about Kirk Franklin fighting for his lineage. And let me kind of explain that a little bit to you guys. So when you listen to Kirk Franklin said he grew up without his father, right? So he understands how devastating it is not to have somebody who's supposed to be there to love and care and protect you, not to be there. Well, he does not want his son to experience the same pain. When you listen to the story, he divorced his son's mother, I think right around the time that his son was about between like 12 or 13, somewhere around there. And that's where kind of the wheels kind of fell off a little bit. But now today, Kirk Franklin is still fighting, and he said yesterday, still fighting for his son, because he's not going to give up on his son, because he knows what that really feels like, you guys. And I talked about a little bit about before, those of us who grew up without their father, we really can understand how important that really is. So, my heart goes out, my hat goes off, that he's not going to give up. He's not just throwing his hands up and say, well, hey, forget about this young man. I'm just going to do me. Like, he's not taking that approach. Even through all the adversity, he's still pushing through. He's still standing strong, saying, hey, look, throughout everything, I'm still going to support this young man. So I was talking to a good friend of mine, Ryan Work, and we was talking about Ancestry.com, right? Now, I'm not promoting them. I'm just kind of talking about it. So that's something that I kind of wanted to do for a while, but I never actually did it. So I finally did it the other night, you guys. Why? Because I read a book that says, for lack of vision, a people perish. And sometimes because of those of us who actually grew up without our father, we kind of take him out of the equation, right? Like, hey, man, the dude wasn't around, the dude wasn't there, so he doesn't matter, so we don't care. But we never go past him and then past him because because he wasn't there to stop us. And then that's it. So what happens is now, as young men and young women, we recreate the wheel. And you guys heard that terminology before. We just recreate it. Why? Because we don't know it. We don't take time to stop and understand it. Well, I took some time to actually find out, right, through Ancestry. So I get on there, I kind of go through the process, and I know a little bit of information. So I put the information in, you guys, and I'm starting to dig. And lo and behold, I find my great grandfather, cat by the name of Israel Taylor. Never knew this, you guys. Never knew this. So I'm just kind of sharing with you how important lineage is. Find my great grandfather, and I find that this dude lived to be 117 years old, you guys. He was born in 1840 and died in 1957. 117, right? So it shows to me that I have longevity in my family on my father's side. My father lived to about 96, somewhere around there, right? So I challenge you guys, like, take a moment. Some of you guys may have, Ancestry account. Some of you may not. But if you don't, it's just a great place to actually start to kind of find out, okay, I kind of know where I want to go, but where did I come from, right? Because that's just as important as where you're trying to go, right? To understand where you actually came from. So when you're talking about, stories, right? When you start to look at those things, it's going to tell you a story, right? I was able to find death certificates. I was able to find why certain people passed away, like my great grandmother, why she passed away. And those things, you guys, are very significant when it comes to actually understanding our history. So when you talk about stories and then lineage, I want to share a story with you, and I hope I can get through this, you guys. Now, this story is significant to me because it kind of sets up where I am today, right? For those of you who know, I grew up without my father. So I'm in the process of writing a book about that story, you guys, and how traumatic and impactful that story actually was. I'm going to try to get through this. And this is the first day I actually met my father. I never forget that day when I met my father for the very first time. It was a bright, sunny day in May 1985. My cousin and I were driving around and just hanging out. My mother had called my father and told him that I was going to come by his job and see him. When Anthony and myself got to his job, picked up the phone, and I said, "Hey, I'm here to see Thomas Taylor." They said, "Okay, he'll be out shortly." I waited about 10 minutes or so, and lo and behold, this man walks out and says, "Hello, I'm Thomas." And I said, "Hello, I'm Thomas." It was almost a surreal moment. Like I knew this was happening, but at the same time, I can't believe that it's happening. He asked me how was I doing. I told him that I was well and about to graduate from high school. He said he was proud of me. We spoke some more about my prom, then gave me a few $100, and we left. I said thank you. My cousin and I, myself, got into my cousin's Camaro, and it was like we just rode off into the sunset. When I returned home, my mother asked me how'd it go. I told her it was fine, that we met, spoke for a while, and he gave me some money. Then we left. Now, reading this, you might ask yourself, is that it? Why didn't I ask questions? Like, why wasn't you in my life? And where have you been for the last 18 years? Why don't you call me? I promise you that none of those questions ever ran across my mind. You see, at 18 years of age, I was pretty mature, and I had processed in my mind that those questions were really for my mother to ask, even though I had the right to ask them. I was never emotionally tied to my father not being in my life. My philosophy was, it's hard to miss something that you never had. At 18 years of age, I had already learned lessons that most young men in their mid-20s had learned. My mindset has always been to focus on the future and not dwell in the past, because the greatest pull from the universe is a pull in the future. As we live our lives and take time to reflect how we became the person we are today, we realize that there are significant dates and days and milestones. The day I met my father for the very first time was significant in more ways than one. You see, that meeting actually changed the course of my future, you guys. So I just want to share that story with you, because if I didn't go through that heartache and that pain, right, when you fast forward to today, it wouldn't be as significant to find my great-grandfather and other members of my family, you guys. So I challenge you, take a moment, right, and start to dig and find out about your lineage. And it will help you understand and identify where you're going. Until we meet again, this has been Thomas Taylor III. You can follow me on Instagram, Thomas Taylor III, Taylor Your Dreams, as well as my email address is tyd@tayloryourdreams.com, as well as on Facebook, Thomas Taylor III. Until then, make it a great day.